100 firefighters to put out a fire in Chicago's Pilsen neighborhood this morning. A total of 9 people were hurt.
What the news failed to tell that night was that the fire had taken Augustina Morales' apartment, possessions, and most tragically of all, her grandchild's life.
Poco a poco. Es muy difícil, pero poco a poco.
It's very difficult, but little by little, one can rebuild. The life of my grandchild is gone forever. But with a lot of work, little by little, I know I can regain my belongings.
Because Augustina is from a poor community, her struggle to rebuild her life is in part the story of a community struggling to rebuild itself. It's the story of the Pilsen Resurrection Project. Absentee landlords and neglect have left their mark upon this community. At one time, Pilsen was a port of entry for Chicago's Italian and Polish community. It's now home to many of Chicago's Mexican Americans. And like so many other neighborhoods in our nation's inner cities, Pilsen is beset with problems of gangs, drugs, high unemployment, high dropout rates, and deteriorating housing. These problems, combined with cutbacks in government spending, leave communities like Pilsen even more frustrated and disenfranchised. How can the people of communities like this respond? In Pilsen, the churches have become the base and the voice of the people's response.
Why is it important for us to pull together? Why is it important for us to work together and have a kind of a united front? And so I think that's probably right, that the church and the churches are probably the only ones that can really have the kind of impact to keep those kinds of pressures from really caving in a community. They give it a sense of, they give the community, I think, a sense of stability, a sense of belonging, and a sense of hope.
The organization of people is the principal thing. And whether we're going to do economic development, whether we're going to do school reform, whether we're going to do housing, whether we're going to do gangs and violence, if we don't have the people organized to work on it, first of all, they have to feel the need. They have to see it in their own interest, and they want to become involved. If that isn't there, it won't work.
So what we did is we started this process of interviews, of teaching people how to make interviews like we made interviews with these people, asking their concerns, and sitting down and people listening to other people what their concerns are. And the concerns that would come up would be garbage, gangs, education, housing.
At first, the churches tackled the more modest and easily winnable issues like garbage pickup, street cleaning, and city services. This built confidence, strengthened relationships, and began to develop leaders. The organization was now prepared to seriously tackle housing in a strategy to increase ownership for the community and its problems.
As it turned out, housing turned out to be one of the top priorities. Running a very close second and third to drugs and gangs. We had no way of starting out fighting drugs, fighting gangs. So we bit off a piece that we could chew, which was new housing. More people qualify than what we would think. That's the reality, too, that they can afford to buy houses. In these workshops, we've got well over 200 people already, and we've got 60 here. We're probably very close to 300 now. And we've only started. We've only just begun, the song says. We've only just begun.
And when we are trying to help the people buy houses, we always say that they're going to buy part of the community. And they're going to be owners of the community with the problems and everything. And when the people start developing ownership, they tend to try to solve the problems that are around them. And I think if we can create homeowners in the area, the problems will diminish.
New housing and home ownership can be a catalyst for further community development. Chicago United, a business consortium and key resource to the Resurrection Project, agrees.
That housing is crucial, not just because it provides a decent place to live, but because of its relationship to the economic structure. And we have to work to get people to understand that when you build or rehab housing, you're creating lots of jobs. And if you do it right, you're creating lots of jobs for folks in a given community. Right now, we're trying to get off the ground.
In just 8 months, 60 residents are in the process of or have already purchased homes. In addition, 24 vacant lots have been allocated for new homes. It takes more than bricks and mortar to rebuild a community. It takes organization, and it takes leadership. Esperanza, Raul, and others in the Resurrection Project came to be leaders through their participation in house meetings, where people get together to share their faith, local concerns, and problems that their community faces.
Services that were held in each home opened our doors to each other. And so we would meet at my house, we would meet at my neighbor's house, we would meet across the street, and we got to know each other. And we found out that all our concerns were everyone else's concerns. And that's how we started.
Leaders and issues are also discovered through an interview process in which hundreds of families are visited in each church.
We're setting up the mechanisms to develop leaderships. See, our organization is looking long-term, not short-term. And the only way to do that is by developing leaders. Now, we're doing this by doing one-to-one interviews with people, by building relationships, getting them in, just to understand what their concerns are for their home environment as well as for their community.
We got 200 people together through the interview process, and we had an action over here at St. Adalbert's. This has not come just by making an announcement in church. We made those 30 interviews, and we taught other people to make interviews, and we taught 40 people, and each of them made 5 interviews apiece, and they got to know people, and they strained these relationships, and they came to this meeting, and they were prepared, and they knew what they wanted, and they got what they wanted.
Actions and meetings are held with city or other officials to obtain adequate city services or promote other local improvements. The leaders and organization are tested and developed in forums like these that provide direct and meaningful participation in the democratic process. Again, the message for participation and commitment to Pilsen becomes part of the liturgy. 1,000 families signed the Pilsen Resurrection Covenant, pledging themselves to register to vote, to promote the census, to rebuild the community, to buy or to rehab a house. Organization, partnership, leadership, action, commitment offers people dignity, and it gives them power.
Power rests in the people. Movements, organizations, and training sessions try to help people realize their potential when they are motivated and work as a unit, a family, a community, as we are.
As a community, we have to have power. And I think as a parish, we have to have power if we're going to affect any changes. Because it's easy to talk, it's easy to write letters, it's easy to sign petitions. That's not power.
Poor communities gain political power when they build enough organizational strength to command respect. It gives them a place at the table where decisions are made. The Resurrection Project now commands that respect.
Of the resurrection of Pilsen community, where people coming together with religious leaders, business leaders, community leaders, and themselves saying that we can do it. And this public-private partnership is just the beginning. And I assure the woman earlier, I'll say this publicly, that the new homes will be part of the Pilsen community dealing with the city of Chicago. When we see the city owning these vacant lots, I assure you they will not be sold to outside developers. They will be. Thank you, Mayor Daley.
Augustina Morales attended the meetings where she felt the encouragement and spirit of the community. She attended the workshops that taught her what it would take to buy a home. And with the strength that she drew from her church, Augustina Morales and her daughters purchased a home in Pilsen. Just 1 year after the fire and 4 days before Christmas, neighbors gathered at Augustina's new home to bless it and share with her in a celebration of new beginnings and renewed hope.
Al principio sentía mucha tristeza porque, digo, yo soy una persona
At first I felt very sad
que no tenía
because now I am a person who has nothing.
quedé como en la calle,
My daughters and I were in
sin
the
nada.
street with nothing.
Yo y mis hijas.
And in 1 year,
Y en
a
un
dream
año,
I didn't dare to
¿cómo es
imagine
posible
or believe could be possible
poder lograr este
comes
sueño
true.
que nunca me lo imaginaba que se iba a realizar?
The inspiration and leadership to rebuild our neighborhoods has to come from within our neighborhoods. It is with this spirit that the people of the Resurrection Project look to their future.
We all can do wonders to resurrect our Pilsen.